I realized something recently that genuinely, I don't know, bothered me a lot. For months, I've talked about things that seemingly completely are unrelated. AI, algorithms, money, housing, loneliness, communism, whether photographs are real, whether the internet is real, whether the person you're arguing with online is real. And then it hit me. I haven't been talking about different things. I've been talking about the exact same thing. I just couldn't see it yet. So let me ask you a slightly uncomfortable question. How much of your life do you actually control? And don't answer yet. Obviously, you make your own decisions. So do I. But think about this. Who decided what you're looking at on your phone this morning? You? Okay. Who decided what appeared there for you to choose from? Which news story? Which video? Which outrage? Which product? Which opinion? Which house? Which job? You made the choice, but you didn't necessarily choose what you were choosing from. And that distinction is massive because most of us cannot explain why a particular thing appeared on in front of us, which means something can be heavily influenced, like a person, genuinely. And though the process maybe, we saw it happening, coming, but and then here's the weirdest part. We asked for this. We want personalization, convenience, faster, cheaper, easier, instant. We wanted Netflix to know our taste, Amazon to know what to buy, Google to know what we're looking for, Spotify to know our mood, social media to know what keeps us scrolling. And almost every step made perfect sense. And that's what makes this fascinating. And there doesn't have to be a villain. There doesn't need to be 12 people sitting in some smoke-filled room controlling civilization. That would almost be much easier. At least we'd know who to blame. But what if nobody designed the final system? What if billions of perfectly rational decisions made the companies, governments, developers, investors, consumers all optimizing for the same thing? Simply, they created it. Looking at power in a can. And usually, you could see the gatekeeper, the king, the boss, the bank, the television network. Now, the gatekeeper might be a ranking system, a credit model, a recommendation engine, or software nobody had actually talked about fully and you never had explained to. What a mortgage denied. Why? You post something. 0 views. Why? Your insurance changes. Why? And slowly, something strange starts to happen. Cause and effect become harder to see. For generations, underneath modern life was a pretty simple bargain. Work harder, learn more, save money, improve your life. Cause, effect, agency. Except millions of people are actually really trying hard to do that and getting the expected result. They got educated. They're drowning in debt. They got a job. They can't afford the house. So they got a raise. They still feel poor. And then we wonder why everybody is angry. Why conspiracy theories explode. Why people become obsessed with the future while simultaneously nostalgic for the past. Maybe those aren't separate phenomena. Maybe they're different reactions to the same psychological condition. The feeling that I am no longer steering. And when people lose the feeling of control, certainty becomes incredibly seductive. Someone appears and says, I know who did this. I know you're struggling. I know how to fix it. Left, right, capitalist, communist, technocrat, conspiratorial. Completely different worldviews. sometimes feeding the exact same psychological hunger. Please give me the world that makes sense again. Oh, well, there you are. Extraordinary new technologies are arriving. Burn the system down. And I want my old life back. They sound like opposite desires, but underneath that may be the same demand. Give me back agency. And then AI takes something much stronger. Machines aren't just doing things for us anymore. They're beginning to think with us and for us. I like it, I use it, but should we be willing to ask if something helps you with this? Does it eventually change your thinking? Think about GPS. We didn't just lose biological ability to navigate. We just stopped practicing it much more because something else could do it better. Memory works strangely too. If that image in your head actually, from childhood, is it memory or is it a photograph looked at 50 times online? Technology isn't merely just our lives, it's increasingly influencing parts that you see, which parts that you remember, and even interpret them. Now look at money. Maybe your paycheck is larger than maybe it was 5 years ago, let's say. But your actual life tells you you're poor. Why does that feel so destabilizing? Because money isn't merely paper digits on a screen. Money is one of the interferences between you and your ability to act, to move, to buy, to leave, to build, to choose. And suddenly, all these supposedly unrelated subjects snap into focus. Housing isn't just a house. AI isn't just about technology. Money isn't just about currency. Algorithms aren't just about social media. They all touch the same friction point. Who or what sits between a human being and their ability to act? And increasingly, we're outsourcing tiny pieces of that ability voluntarily. Give me a faster route. Remember my password. Recommend the movie. Finish my sentence. Summarize this. Tell me what I should watch next. And every single trade makes sense. I make them too. But there's a question I cannot shake. How much inconvenience can you remove from a human life before you accidentally remove something humans needed? Maybe even boredom. Give us imagination. Getting lost taught, navigation. Waiting taught patience. Disagreement forced us to have arguments. Friction is annoying, I know. But what if some friction was actually building us? What happens when civilization becomes exponentially good at removing it? I don't know. But we're about to find out. Everyone is arguing about ideology, but ideology may only be the visible fight underneath it. The architecture is changing. We build systems to serve us. Then we build systems to understand us. Now, we're building systems capable of predicting us. And increasingly, systems capable of deciding things for us. And if you've made it this far, this is exactly why I ask you to like, subscribe, and share these videos. Because ironically, even whether this conversation reaches another person is partly decided by one of those systems. So maybe the defining struggle of the next decade isn't left versus right, and it isn't necessarily human versus machine. It may be something quieter, individual agency versus invisible systems. Not because invisible systems are automatically evil. Some are extraordinary. Some make our lives dramatically better. But because the more powerful systems become, the more important one question becomes. Can the individual still meaningfully say no? We imagine losing freedom as something dramatic. Someone kicks the door down, bans a book, locks us in a cell. But that is the defining transfer of agency in our life. Looks maybe like that? What if it's pleasant, helpful, personalized, fictionless, fast? What if somebody does not force us? What if we generally prefer it?